Welcome to today's explainer. Today we are going to put on a pair of psychological X-ray glasses to decode the absolutely chaotic and sometimes inexplicably bizarre behaviors we see in ourselves and the people around us every single day. If you've ever just been completely baffled by human interaction, well, you are in the exact right place.
Really think about it. Have you ever wondered why a highly successful, brilliant guy ends up entirely dependent on a deeply toxic partner? Or why an exhausted housewife complains about being totally overworked, yet seems strangely proud when the chores pile up? Or even why a masterful criminal intentionally leaves obvious clues behind for the police? Well, today, we are going to unravel exactly why we act in ways that surprise even ourselves. So, here is our roadmap for the explainer today. Number 1, the mystery of behaviors. Number 2, 3 emotional states. Number 3, the trap of games. Number 4, famous everyday games. And finally, number 5, self-awareness for survival. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the mystery of human behaviors. Okay, let's dive into this. Just as microbiology completely changed medicine, a brilliant scientist named Eric Berne revolutionized our understanding of behavior through this concept of attention, or what he playfully called strokes. Listen to this. Humans are quite literally starved for attention right from childhood. It's wild, but studies actually show that infants can fall physically ill without emotional interaction. So this need for attention, it's as intense and is absolutely crucial for our survival as food. It drives everything. I mean everything, from a grad student desperately seeking a professor's nod of approval to the extreme compulsive social media addictions we see everywhere today. Deep down, we're all just seeking our next stroke.
And to get that vital attention, we basically slice our lives up into 3 parts. First up, you've got practical life. Routine tasks like going to work or fixing your car. Second is social life. These are your predictable rituals and pastimes, like chatting at a cafe or polite family visits. But here is where it gets interesting. The deepest, most intense interactions happen in the 3rd slice, individual life. And this is exactly where our complex hidden games begin.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 3 human emotional states.
To really understand these games, we need to look through a very specific psychological lens. Basically, every single person possesses 3 distinct emotional ego states. I want you to ask yourself which one you inhabit during your daily interactions. So first we have the adult, who is rational, objective, and deliberate. Then there's the child, who can be impulsive, defensive, or sometimes purely joyful. And finally, the parent, which is a state full of automatic, routine reactions and ready-made rules that we've completely absorbed from our surrounding environment. We all have all 3.
So, what happens when these states cross wires? Let's look at the classic sock drawer scenario. Step 1. Ahmed wakes up and rationally asks his wife where his socks are. He's operating strictly in the adult state. Step 2. His highly stressed wife, instead of answering as an adult, snaps, "You always lose things. You never know where anything is." Boom. She has just shifted into the parent state, essentially treating him like a child. Step 3. Ahmed feels attacked and responds defensively or with guilt, instantly dropping right down into his child state. This exact crossing of ego states is the spark. It's what creates conflict and immediately triggers a psychological game.
Moving on to Section 3, the trap of psychological games.
Now that we've seen the micro level of our individual minds, let's zoom out a bit to the structured interactions people unknowingly play every single day. Look, these aren't fun, casual board games. They have a strict anatomy. We're talking specific details, counter details, roles that must be played, and a set number of players. But crucially, why do we play them? They survive because of psychological advantages. They basically hand us comfortable, albeit highly destructive excuses to avoid dealing with our real underlying problems.
Let's dive into Section 4, famous everyday games. All right, let's open up this secret catalog of the most famous everyday games. I guarantee you are witnessing or maybe even playing some of these right now. First up is an absolute classic marital game. If it weren't for you, imagine a wife who constantly complains to her friends that she would be highly successful if only her controlling husband would let her work or take a language class. But secretly, the child state within her deliberately chose a controlling parent husband. Why on earth would she do that? Because it acts as a perfect shield, masking her own deep-seated social anxiety or intense fear of failure.
And this brilliantly illustrates the hidden motive. The whole game absolutely collapses the second the husband removes that barrier. If he just turns around and says, "You know what, go ahead, take the class, get the job," the wife's comfortable excuse vanishes into thin air. She is suddenly forced to face her own internal fears directly, which almost always causes the entire psychological game to fall apart.
Okay, here's another super common one. Now I've got you. A homeowner agrees to pay a plumber $10. The plumber finishes up and says an extra little part makes the total $11. The homeowner just explodes in absolute rage over a single dollar. Now why? It is literally not about the money. The homeowner is using this tiny $1 dispute as a trap to vent entirely unrelated social anger. They've completely transformed from a rational adult into an angry parent, furiously scolding a defensive child.
And then, man, you have these massive multiplayer games like the Alcoholics game. The addict uses drinking as this public excuse for their failures, which is really just masking deep self-hate. But here's the crazy part. The game completely relies on supporting roles. The accuser gets to step up and play the superior parent. The rescuer gets to swoop in and feel incredibly virtuous. Everyone's ego state is being fed. And this actually enables the destructive game to continue indefinitely while everyone completely ignores the addict's true underlying issues.
Now, let's analyze a highly complex game called the Uproar. Picture this. A couple agrees to go to the cinema for a nice date. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the wife brings up needing to paint the house. The husband immediately gets defensive and complains about money. They argue, they get angry, and boom, they cancel the date. So what was the hidden goal here? To intentionally sabotage intimacy. That bitter argument acts as a shield, allowing both of them to safely retreat into comfortable emotional isolation without ever having to admit that they are terrified of closeness.
And what about the harried game? Think of the full-stack housewife or superparent who just takes on cooking, cleaning, working, and parenting. They constantly accept impossible amounts of work until they literally physically collapse. They do this to mask intense, crushing feelings of inadequacy. This exhausting loop gives her the ultimate psychological excuse. Hey, I'm too busy to be perfect. But it's a trap, and it's so punishing it often requires real professional psychological intervention to untangle.
You know, we can even zoom way out to a macro level with the criminal's game. Like, why on earth do some criminals deliberately leave clues behind for the cops? Because in that moment, they aren't operating from a rational adult state, trying to maximize profit and get away safely. No, they are operating straight from an impulsive child state. They are prioritizing the exhilarating thrill of provoking and outsmarting the parent authority figures, the police. The game is literally the provocation itself.
Now, quick time out here. Let's be clear, not all games are malicious. There's a wonderful game called The Cavalier. This is where someone genuinely compliments colleagues and spouses purely out of an adult state, spreading joy with absolutely no hidden agenda. But on the dark side of that coin, we have mudslinging. This is where a parent constantly criticizes a child, making them feel like nothing they do is ever right. This is tragic because it traps young children in lifelong cycles of unwarranted guilt, where they go on to blame themselves for every single broken relationship in their future.
Which leads us to our final section, number 5, self-awareness for survival.
So, the big question, how do we actually break free from these intense cyclical traps? Let's guide ourselves out of the problem phase and into the solution. The core takeaway from our source material is elegantly simple, yet profoundly challenging. And it goes like this. The only way to survive the negative impacts of these games is through self-awareness. That's it. It is the ultimate cure.
Basically, this means you need to put on those psychological X-ray glasses we talked about earlier every single day. First, observe the patterns objectively. Really look at them. Next, identify whether the person standing in front of you is acting as an adult, a parent, or a child. And here's the most important part. Force yourself to respond from the rational adult state. If you refuse to take the bait, the game breaks. You break the cycle.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, deeply personal question to reflect on. I want you to look at your own relationships, your recurring arguments, your daily routines. What hidden game are you playing today? Because understanding this catalog of human behavior isn't just about reading other people, it's truly about mastering yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the mind, and hey, keep analyzing those interactions.